The examination hall stretched across 2 levels of the Galactic Military Academy's central tower. 200 cadets sat in neat rows, each at their own terminal. The air hummed with nervous energy and the quiet clicking of clawed fingers against keyboards. Lieutenant sat in row 17, seat 42. He was the only human in the room. Looked around at the other candidates. To his left sat a female, her silver scales catching the light every time she shifted in her seat. Her yellow eyes stayed fixed on her screen, not acknowledging him. To his right, a male with 4 arms worked on 2 different at once, his antenna twitching with concentration. Behind him, someone with blue fur and too many teeth muttered prayers in a language didn't recognize. The Academy station floated in neutral space, far from any home world. Through the massive windows could see stars in every direction. Somewhere out there was Earth, 37 light-years away. He had not been home in 3 years. Instructor entered through the main doors. The stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scales darker than most of his species. Old scars crossed his face and arms, marks from battles he never talked about. Every cadet in the room straightened in their seat. Had that effect on people. Cadets, his voice carried across the hall without speakers. Today you face the Predator Tactics simulation. Half of you will fail. Some of you will fail so badly that we will question why you were accepted to this academy at all. Watched several cadets shift uncomfortably. The Predator Tactics exam had broken careers before they started. Last year, 40% of candidates washed out of the program entirely after this test. The simulation is simple, continued. He paced between the rows of terminals. You command a ship. Civilians are in danger. You must protect them. The simulation adapts to your choices. There is no single correct answer, but there are many wrong ones. A cadet raised one of her 3 hands. Instructor, what are the victory conditions? Keep the civilians alive, said. Everything else is secondary. Made a mental note of that. Everything else is secondary. He had grown up hearing similar words from his father, who had served in Earth's colonial defense forces. The mission comes first. The people you protect come before everything, including yourself. Reach the front of the hall again. You have studied tactics for 2 years. You have learned from species across the galaxy. Today, we see if you can actually use what you learned, or if you just memorized answers for tests. The instructor activated the main display. It showed a tactical scenario in 3 dimensions. A station, 3 hostile ships, 1 defender. Studied the display, already calculating angles and distances. Each of you will face a different version of this scenario, explained. The simulation AI will adjust based on your tactics. If you play it safe, it will push harder. If you take risks, it will exploit your mistakes. The simulation knows no mercy. Had heard stories about this exam from the human cadets who came before him. Most said the same thing. The simulation was designed to test how you handled impossible situations. The Academy wanted to know what kind of officer you would become when everything went wrong. You will enter your simulation pods in 15 minutes, said. Use this time to prepare mentally. Once you enter, you will have no breaks, no pauses, no do-overs. Your performance will be recorded and analyzed by the evaluation committee. Questions. Dozens of hands went up. Answered them one by one. Questions about rules of engagement. Questions about available resources. Questions about how the grading worked. Didn't raise his hand. His questions were different. He thought about New Dallas, the colony world where he grew up. It orbited a yellow star in a system that Earth had claimed 20 years before he was born. His parents worked as agricultural engineers, helping terraform the planet's northern continent. Remembered wide open spaces and air that smelled like grass after rain. He also remembered the day raiders attacked the outer settlements. He had been 16. The raiders came in fast ships, demanding supplies and technology. The colonial government tried to negotiate. The raiders killed 300 people while the negotiations continued. His uncle died in those attacks. That day changed him. He realized that some people only understood one language, force. Talking to them, trying to reason with them, just gave them time to hurt more innocents. He joined the military 2 years later as soon as he was old enough. The Academy had been hard for humans. They were new to the Galactic Council, barely 15 years since first contact. Other species had thousands of years of history together. Humans were outsiders, proving themselves one achievement at a time. Felt that weight every day. 5 minutes, announced. Closed his eyes and controlled his breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. His pulse slowed. His mind cleared. He visualized the scenario again. Civilian station, 3 hostile cruisers, 1 light frigate under his command. Outnumbered, outmatched. The other cadets began moving toward the simulation pods, stood and joined the line. The female from his row gave him a quick glance, then looked away. He was used to that. Humans made some species uncomfortable. Earth was classified as its gravity too strong, its weather too violent, its predators too aggressive. Humans who grew up there were considered dangerous by default. The simulation pods lined the walls of the lower level. Each was a sealed chamber with neural interface equipment. Had used them before in training exercises, but this felt different. This test would determine his future in the fleet. Appeared beside him as approached his assigned pod. The instructor's yellow eyes studied him with an intensity that made stand. Said, "You understand what this test measures?" "Yes, sir," replied. "Tactical thinking under pressure." "More than that," said. "It measures who you are when everything is on the line, when there is no good choice, only less terrible ones, when people die no matter what you do." Met the instructor's gaze. "I understand, sir." "Do you?" His head tilted slightly. "You are young, you have never commanded in real combat, you have never given an order that got someone killed. This simulation will show you what that feels like." "Sir," said carefully, "I grew up on New Dallas. I saw what happens when good people hesitate against bad ones. I know what's at stake." Studied him for a long moment, then the instructor stepped aside. "Enter your pod, Lieutenant. Show us what Earth teaches its warriors." Climbed into the simulation pod. The seat adjusted to his body automatically. Neural sensors extended toward his head. He took one last deep breath of real air before the pod sealed. As the neural interface initialized, Hurd's voice through the speakers. "Final reminder to all candidates. There are no style points in this exam. Victory is all that matters. How you achieve it is your choice." The simulation loaded around him. Felt his consciousness separating from his physical body and merging with the virtual environment. He stood on a ship's bridge now, crew members at their stations, alarms beginning to sound. Before he fully committed to the scenario, opened a communication channel to the monitoring room. His voice was calm and clear. "Sir, I have one question about the engagement parameters." The voice came back, "Speak." "When we engage the hostiles," said, "are we being graded on bringing them back alive or obliterated?" The monitoring room fell silent. Could imagine the instructors looking at each other, processing what he had just asked. It was a simple question, but it revealed everything about how he intended to fight. In the monitoring room, his expression did not change, but his tail moved in a way that other would recognize as surprised interest. His awareness settled fully into the simulation. He stood on the bridge of the ECS Defender, a light frigate that suddenly felt real in every detail. The deck plates hummed under his feet. The air smelled like recycled oxygen and metal. Around him, 30 crew members worked at their stations. "Captain on the bridge," someone announced, even though was just a lieutenant in reality. In this simulation, he commanded the ship. "Status report," ordered, moving to the center of the bridge. His executive officer, a simulation construct that looked vaguely human, stepped forward. "Sir, we're on patrol near Station Theta 7. Long-range sensors just detected 3 heavy cruisers entering the system. They're broadcasting Marauder identification codes." Pulled up the tactical display. Station Theta 7 appeared as a blue icon, a civilian station orbiting a gas giant. 8,000 people lived there, mostly miners and their families. The 3 red icons representing the cruisers were closing fast. "Time until they reach the station?" asked. 22 minutes, sir," the tactical officer replied. Studied the enemy ships. Each cruiser massed 3 times what the Defender did. Their weapons could punch through his shields in seconds. Their armor could shrug off anything his light frigate could throw at them. This was the impossible situation promised. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the communications officer said. "They're demanding the station surrender all refined metals and technology. If the station refuses, they'll destroy it." Watch the timer count down. 21 minutes now. He accessed the ship's database on the Marauders. They were a loose confederation of raiders from a species that evolved as ambush predators. They valued strength and despised weakness. Their culture celebrated successful raids as achievements worthy of respect. "What about reinforcements?" asked. Nearest fleet elements are 6 hours away, sir, his executive officer said quietly. 6 hours. The station would be slag in less than one at the rate those cruisers were moving, walked to the viewport and stared at the distant station. 8,000 people, families, children, people who just wanted to live their lives without violence. In the monitoring room, instructors watched simulation on their displays. They saw the same tactical situation playing out for dozens of other candidates. Most were already broadcasting distress signals, trying to buy time with negotiations, or positioning their ships defensively. The human hasn't moved yet, one instructor observed. Watch Speed closely. He's thinking, let him think. Back in the simulation, made his decision. Helm, plot an intercept course, put us between the station and those cruisers. Sir, we can't win a direct engagement, his executive officer said. Those ships will tear us apart. I know, said calmly, but we're not going to engage them conventionally. Communications, open a channel to the lead ship. Make sure it's audio and visual. I want them to see me. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open, sir. Stood in front of the visual pickup. He made sure they could see his face, his uniform, his species. Vessels, this is Lieutenant of the Earth Confederation Ship Defender. I'm transmitting in your language to make sure you understand me perfectly. In the monitoring room, several instructors leaned forward. The human spoke with a proper accent. That took effort to learn. On display, a commander appeared. The alien had dark gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and mandibles that clicked as it spoke. Human, your ship is in our path. Move or be destroyed. I'm offering you a choice, said, his voice steady. You can turn your ships around right now and leave this system, or you can continue toward that station and discover why Earth's predators evolved to hunt through persistence. The commander's mandibles spread in what might have been amusement. You threaten us, your single ship against our 3. I'm not threatening you, said. I'm explaining your options. If you attack that station, I won't try to disable your ships. I won't try to capture your crews. I will dedicate every weapon, every tactic, every member of my crew to one single goal, making sure none of you survive to attack another civilian target. The monitoring room erupted in quiet conversations. This was not standard doctrine. This was not how the Galactic Council trained its officers. Pause his simulation, one instructor said. This approach violates engagement protocols. No, said firmly. The scenario has no pause function once initiated, and he hasn't violated anything yet. He's made a statement, not taken action. The commander in simulation tilted its head. You speak of determination, human, but you are small prey pretending to be a predator. Your shields will fail. Your hull will break. You will die begging for mercy. His expression didn't change. You're partially right. My ship will probably die. But here's what you don't understand about humans. We don't fight battles to win glory. We fight to eliminate threats. If you make me choose between your survival and protecting those 8,000 civilians, I will choose the civilians every single time. Bold words from prey, the commander said. Not prey, corrected. Humans are predators we survived ice ages, megavolcanoes, and fighting every other predator on our planet for dominance. We learned one lesson better than any species in this galaxy. When something threatens our pack, we don't stop until that threat is gone, not captured, not defeated, gone. Paused, letting his words sink in. So here's your choice, Commander. You can be smart predators and find easier prey. Or you can test whether my crew and I really mean what we say. But understand this. If you choose to test us, I will spend every second of my ship's remaining life making you regret it. The commander studied through the screen. In real culture, such direct challenges were rare. Most prey species pleaded or negotiated. This human promised mutual destruction with complete calm. Your simulation AI is adapting, an instructor noted in the monitoring room. The response is outside normal parameters. Nodded slowly. Understands something about predator psychology. He's not trying to win a fight. He's trying to make the fight not worth winning. In the simulation, the commander's eyes narrowed. You would sacrifice your ship. Without hesitation, said. That's the difference between your species and mine. You raid for profit and glory. We fight for survival. And when humans fight for survival, we don't count the cost. Your words are empty, the said, but there was less certainty in its voice. Pulled up his ship's status on a side screen. My frigate carries plasma torpedoes, rail guns, and a cargo bay full of medical supplies packed with volatile chemicals. My engineer estimates we can rig those supplies into improvised explosives. My tactical officer has already plotted 17 different ramming vectors. My crew knows what I'm asking of them, and every single one has volunteered. Look directly at the commander. You want this station's resources, I understand that, but you need to understand what it will cost you. I'm not promising I'll destroy all 3 of your ships, but I guarantee that if you continue this attack, at least one of your cruisers will not leave this system. Your crew will die. Your ship will become debris. And the survivors on your other ships will have to explain to your clans how they lost a heavy cruiser to a single human frigate protecting civilians. The tactical display showed the cruisers still approaching, but their speed had decreased slightly. They were listening. "You think we fear one small ship?" the commander asked. "I think you're smart enough to calculate odds," said. "You came here expecting easy prey, civilians who would surrender or die quietly. Instead, you found humans. And humans don't surrender when we're protecting the innocent. We don't die quietly. We die making sure you die with us." Took a step closer to the camera. "Last chance, Commander. Turn around and find targets that won't cost you a ship. Or continue forward and prove that my species' reputation is completely deserved." In the monitoring room, an instructor spoke up. "This is psychological warfare, not tactics." "Psychological warfare is a tactic," replied. "Knows he can't win conventionally, so he's changing the nature of the engagement." The commander was silent for a long moment. Its mandibles clicked in a pattern that suggested deep thought. Finally, it spoke. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human." "I'm neither," said. "I'm just willing to do what needs to be done. Are you?" The channel closed abruptly, watched his tactical display. The 3 cruisers continued their approach. 18 minutes until they reached the station. His gambit had failed. "All hands battle stations," ordered. "This is not a drill. Engineering, start rigging those medical supplies. I want improvised explosives ready in 10 minutes. Tactical, prepare firing solutions on the lead cruiser. Target their life support, bridge, and engine core. No disabling shots. I want maximum casualties with every hit." His crew moved with practiced efficiency. In the simulation, they trusted him completely. That trust felt heavy. "Sir," his executive officer said quietly, "are we really doing this?" Nodded. "They made their choice. Now we make ours. We protect those civilians no matter what it costs us." The timer counted down. 15 minutes, 14, 13. Then the tactical display changed. The 3 cruisers were slowing down. Their weapons remained powered down. Their course began shifting away from the station. "Sir," the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. "They're turning around." Watch the red icons arc away from the station and back toward the system's edge. They were retreating. His psychological warfare had worked. In the monitoring room, silence fell. No candidate had ever defeated the Predator Tactics scenario without firing a shot. But then did something that made the instructors lean forward again. "Maintain battle stations," he ordered. "Follow those cruisers at maximum range. I want sensors locked on them until they jump out of this system." "Sir," his executive officer asked. "They're leaving." "Maybe," said. "Or maybe they're repositioning. We watch them until they're gone. The civilians aren't safe until those ships are light years away." His tail moved in that surprised way again. The human didn't trust the enemy's retreat. Smart. The cruisers continued retreating. 10 minutes later, they jumped to faster-than-light speeds and vanished from sensors. Only then did order his crew to stand down. "Secure from battle stations. Begin damage assessment. Get me casualty reports." "Sir, we didn't take any damage," someone pointed out. Allowed himself a small smile. "I know, but it's good practice to check anyway." The simulation ended. Consciousness pulled away from the virtual bridge and back to his physical body in the pod. The neural sensors retracted. The pod opened. He climbed out on shaking legs. His body was covered in sweat. His heart raced like he had actually been in coma. The cafeteria buzzed with nervous energy. Candidates from the Predator Tactics exam gathered in small groups, comparing experiences and trying to guess who passed. Sat alone at a corner table, eating food he didn't taste. His hands still trembled slightly. A familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see the female from his row in the exam hall. Her silver scales seemed brighter under the cafeteria lights. "Yes," said. Is it true? She asked. The other humans are saying you made the retreat without firing a weapon. Set down his fork. The simulation made them retreat. I just gave them a reason to. By threatening mutual destruction, she said. It wasn't a question. By explaining the cost of their choice, corrected. They could have still attacked. They chose not to. They studied him with those yellow eyes. My name is, I commanded a destroyer in my scenario. I fought well, damaged 2 enemy ships, evacuated half the civilians before my vessel was destroyed. The simulation called it an acceptable loss. She paused. I lost 4,000 civilians and my entire crew. You lost nothing. Looked down at his hands. I got lucky. The AI believed my threat was real. Was it? Asked. Yes, said without hesitation. If they had attacked, I would have done exactly what I promised. His tail moved in a gesture couldn't interpret. That frightens me. It should, said quietly. It frightens me too. Before could respond, the cafeteria's speakers crackled to life. Lieutenant, report to conference room 7 immediately. The cafeteria fell silent. Everyone looked at. Being summoned after an exam meant one of 2 things, exceptional success or catastrophic failure. The timing suggested something more complicated. Stood and cleared his tray. He walked through the corridors of the academy, aware of the stares from other cadets. News traveled fast in a closed environment like the station. Conference room 7 was in the administrative section, had never been there before. The door opened automatically as he approached. Inside, he found a long table with 7 beings seated behind it. Instructor sat at the center. To his left, a female with pale green skin. To his right, a male whose forearms were folded across his chest. 3 others didn't recognize filled the remaining seats. Lieutenant said, please sit. Took the single chair facing the panel. His heart hammered in his chest, but he kept his expression neutral. This was an evaluation committee, a formal review. Do you know why you're here? Asked the female. Her voice was soft, almost musical. No, ma'am, said, but I assume it relates to my exam performance. Your exam performance was highly irregular, the male said. His voice had an edge to it. You violated multiple standard protocols. Which protocols specifically, sir? Asked calmly. The consulted, You threatened to destroy enemy vessels rather than disable them. You planned to sacrifice your entire crew without attempting diplomatic solutions first. You rigged medical supplies into weapons. You showed no consideration for enemy casualties. I showed consideration for civilian casualties, said. That was the mission parameter, protect the civilians. By threatening mass violence, they said. Lieutenant, do you understand that the Galactic Council prefers peaceful solutions whenever possible? I do, ma'am, replied. But the marauders in the scenario had already made their intention clear. They demanded surrender or promised destruction. They chose violence first. Leaned forward. Walk us through your thinking. When did you decide on psychological warfare? Took a breath, organizing his thoughts. The moment I saw the tactical situation, sir. 3 heavy cruisers against 1 light frigate. No reinforcements for 6 hours. The math was simple. I couldn't win a conventional fight. So you chose an unconventional approach, said. Yes, sir, I researched culture. They're predators. They respect strength and exploit weakness. Most prey species try to negotiate or flee, which confirms their worldview. I decided to speak to them as a fellow predator instead. This expression showed distress, by promising to kill them all. By promising to make the raid too costly, corrected. Raiders calculate profit versus risk. I changed their calculation. The station's resources weren't worth losing a heavy cruiser. One of the beings didn't recognize spoke up. It was a species with crystalline features and a voice like chimes. But you were prepared to actually follow through with your threat. You would have sacrificed your crew. If they attacked, yes, said. My crew existed to protect civilians. If mutual destruction was the only way to save 8,000 lives, then that was the price. 17 simulated lives for 8,000, the crystalline being said. Simple mathematics. Not simple at all, said quietly. Every life matters, every death is a failure, but when forced to choose, I choose to protect the innocent over protecting aggressors. This antenna twitched with agitation. This philosophy is dangerous, Lieutenant. It promotes excessive force. With respect, sir, I disagree, said. My approach prevented any force at all. No shots fired, no casualties. The civilians survived and even the raiders survived. Excessive force would have been attacking them despite their retreat. His tail moved slightly. An interesting point. You achieved total mission success with 0 casualties. That's better than 97% of the other candidates. But at what cost to galactic philosophy? They asked. If all officers adopted this human's approach, we would see escalation in every conflict. The promise of mutual destruction becomes standard doctrine. Or it becomes effective deterrence, countered. The retreated because they believed the threat. How many future raids might that prevent? The committee began debating among themselves, sat quietly, listening to them argue about his methods. The representatives spoke passionately about preserving life, even enemy life. The worried about protocol violations setting bad precedents. Others debated the psychology of deterrence versus the morality of threatened violence. Finally raised one clawed hand for silence. Lieutenant, I have a question. In the moment before you opened communications with you asked whether we wanted them alive or obliterated. Why did you phrase it that way? Met the instructor's gaze. Because I needed to know the true objective, sir. If the Academy values capturing enemies, then my tactics would be wrong. If the Academy values mission success above all else, then my approach was valid. I was clarifying the actual priority. And what did you conclude? Asked. You told me the mission was to protect civilians, said. Everything else was secondary, so I made everything else secondary, including enemy survival. The room fell silent. The committee members exchanged glances. Your honesty is noted, said. Now I have a harder question. If you faced that scenario in real combat, not simulation, would you make the same choice? Didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. Even knowing that real beings would die? The pressed. Not simulation constructs, but actual living creatures with families and futures. Ma'am, that's exactly why I would make the same choice, said. Real beings lived on that station, 8,000 of them. They had families and futures too. If raiders threaten them with death and I can stop that threat by making the cost too high, then I stop the threat. By becoming the threat yourself, the crystalline being observed. If necessary, agreed. Better the raiders fear me than murder civilians. The slammed one hand on the table. This is exactly the problem with human military philosophy. You reduce everything to violence. No, sir, said firmly. We reduce everything to protection. There's a difference. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I will hurt those who prey on the innocent because that's the only language some beings understand. Stood, and the rest of the committee fell silent. The instructor walked around the table until he stood directly in front of. You achieved something remarkable today. You solved an impossible scenario with 0 friendly casualties and 0 enemy casualties. You protected every civilian. You even saved the raiders from themselves. Paused. But you also revealed a philosophy that troubles many on this committee. Remained seated, looking up at the towering instructor. I understand, sir. Do you? Asked. You represent a young species that the galaxy is still learning to understand. Humans have been in space for barely a century. You've been part of the Council for 15 years. Every action you take reflects on your entire species. I'm aware of that responsibility, sir, said. Good, said. Because here is what we have decided. You passed the Predator Tactics exam with distinction. Your tactical innovation and mission success are exemplary. However, your file will include a formal notation regarding excessive force consideration and high casualty tolerance in your planning phase. The spoke up. Additionally, you are required to complete supplemental training in diplomatic solutions and rules of engagement. We need you to understand alternatives to your current methodology. Yes, ma'am, said. One more thing, said. Your question has become a topic of discussion among the faculty. Alive or obliterated? It reveals a binary thinking that concerns us. Nodded slowly. Sir, may I explain that question? Please do, said. It wasn't binary thinking, said. It was clarification of stakes. In combat, especially when protecting others, you need to know what success looks like. If capturing enemies alive is the priority, you fight one way. If stopping the threat is the priority, you fight another way. My question wasn't asking permission to be violent. It was asking what the mission actually required. His expression was unreadable, and if we had said alive, then I would have adjusted my tactics accordingly, sir, said. I would have focused on disabling their ships, targeted engines and weapons instead of life support and bridges. I would have accepted higher risk to my own crew to preserve enemy lives. He paused. But the mission would have been harder, the civilian casualties likely higher, and the chance of total failure much greater. The crystalline being made a sound like wind chimes. You speak of these trade-offs so calmly. Because I've thought about them extensively, sir, said. Every officer should. The decision to use force, especially lethal force, should never be easy. But it shouldn't be impossible either, not when innocent lives hang in the balance. Returned to his seat. This committee will file its report. You are dismissed, Lieutenant. Your final academy scores will be posted with the rest of your class. Stood and saluted. Thank you, sirs and ma'ams. He turned to leave, but's voice stopped him. One last thing. Turned back, yes, sir. The marauders in your simulation said. They retreated because they believed you would follow through on your threat. That belief was based on their analysis of your psychology, your species, your determination. This yellow eyes seemed to glow. Make sure you remain worthy of that belief. If you promise to protect, protect. If you promise consequences, deliver them. Never bluff with people's lives at stake. I never bluff, sir, said quietly. His tail moved in what might have been approval or might have been concern. I believe you. That's what worries some of us. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Graduated in the middle of his class, his tactical scores among the highest ever recorded, his diplomatic scores disappointingly low. The notation in his file followed him like a shadow, but so did his results. The academy changed after his exam. Instructors began using his simulation as a case study in tactical ethics courses. Some held it up as an example of brilliant psychological warfare. Others warned against his approach, calling it reckless and overly violent. Future candidates debated his choices endlessly. Tried to ignore the attention. He completed his required supplemental training, learning diplomatic protocols and rules of engagement from a patient instructor named. She taught him to see alternatives, to value enemy lives, to seek peaceful solutions. Listened and learned, but he never promised to change his fundamental philosophy. You understand the principles, told him during their final session, but I'm not certain you'll apply them when it matters. I'll apply them when civilians aren't in immediate danger, said honestly. But if someone threatens innocence, I'll do what's necessary. His expression was sad. I hope you find a balance, Lieutenant, before your conviction costs you something you can't afford to lose. Now stood on the bridge of the ECS Guardian, a real frigate patrolling real space. No simulation, no reset button, just stars and the weight of actual responsibility. Captain commanded the Guardian. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and scars from the colony wars before first contact. He had reviewed his file carefully before accepting him as tactical officer. I read about your exam, had said during their first meeting. The one where you scared off 3 cruisers with threats. Yes, sir, replied. The notation in your file concerns some officers, continued. They worry you're too aggressive, too willing to escalate. Met the captain's gaze, and what do you think, sir? Smiled slightly. I think you understand something most academy graduates don't. Combat isn't about following rules, it's about protecting people. I requested you specifically because of that exam, not despite it. The Guardian patrolled the outer territories, where the Galactic Council's authority was more suggestion than law. Pirates and raiders operated freely here, preying on mining colonies and small settlements. It was the perfect proving ground for methods. For 3 months, they encountered nothing but routine patrols. Performed his duties efficiently, analyzing sensor data, running tactical drills, maintaining weapons systems. The crew accepted him, though some watched him carefully, wondering if the stories were true. Then came the day that changed everything. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal, the communications officer announced. Mining colony Zeta-4, they're under attack. Move to the center of the bridge. Details. 3 ships, the sensor officer reported. Configuration matches known raider groups. They're demanding the colony surrender all processed minerals and technology. Felt his pulse quicken. This was real, not a simulation. How many people at the colony? Asked. 1,200 residents, sir, communications replied. Mostly families. The colony administrator is trying to negotiate. Looked at tactical assessment, Lieutenant. Pulled up the data on his display. 3 raider ships, medium cruisers, the Guardian, any single vessel, but all 3 together them significantly. The math was familiar, too familiar. "Sir, we can't win a conventional engagement against all 3, said. "But if we can separate them, we might take them one at a time." "Time until we reach the colony?" asked. 18 minutes at maximum speed, the helm officer said. Stood silent for a moment, then nodded. "Helm, set course, maximum speed, tactical, prepare all weapons, communications, get me that colony administrator." The bridge hummed with activity, ran simulations in his head, calculating firing solutions and damage probabilities. Every scenario ended badly if the raiders stayed together. The administrator's face appeared on screen, a female with 3 of her forearms bandaged. "This is Administrator. Who is this?" "Captain of the ECS Guardian," said. "We're 18 minutes out. What's your situation?" "The raiders hit our defense station first," said. Fear edged her voice. "We have no shields, limited weapons. They gave us 10 minutes to decide. Surrender everything or they start destroying habitation modules." "How long do you have left?" asked. 4 minutes, said. "Captain, we have children here. If we don't surrender, they'll kill everyone." Watch the tactical display. 16 minutes until the Guardian arrived. 4 minutes until the raiders' deadline. The math didn't work. Looked at, the captain's expression asked a silent question. Made a decision. "Sir, request permission to open communications with the raider ships." "For what purpose?" asked. "Psychological warfare, sir," said. "Same technique I used in the academy exam, make them reconsider their target." Studied him. "Your exam was a simulation. This is real. If they call your bluff, people die." "It's not a bluff, sir," said quietly. The captain's eyes narrowed, then he nodded. "Communications, open a channel to the raider ships, all 3 vessels. I want them all to hear this." The communications officer worked quickly. "Channel open, sir." But gestured too. "Your play, Lieutenant, don't make me regret this." Stood and faced the screen. 3 raider captains appeared, each from a different species. One looked like an armored reptile. Another had too many eyes and mandibles. The third was humanoid but with gray skin and ridges across its face. "Raider vessels," said, speaking clearly. "This is Lieutenant of the ECS Guardian. We are currently 16 minutes from your location. I'm contacting you to offer a choice." The reptilian captain laughed, a hissing sound. "A choice? You offer us a choice? Your single ship against our 3. "Yes," said calmly. "You can leave that colony now, or you can wait for us to arrive and discover why attacking civilians under human protection is considered a fatal mistake." The gray-skinned raider leaned forward. "Human protection? That colony isn't even Earth-affiliated." "It doesn't matter," said. "They called for help, we're responding. That makes them under our protection." The third raider, the one with too many eyes, made a clicking sound. "We know about you, human. You're the one from the academy, the one who made threats in a simulation." Felt his heart skip. His reputation had spread. That simulation was practice for moments exactly like this one. "Words," the reptilian captain said. "You speak threats, but you're still one ship. We will destroy you, then take what we came for." "Maybe," acknowledged. "You probably will destroy my ship. Your combined firepower is superior. But here's what you need to understand. I'm not trying to survive this engagement. I'm trying to eliminate you." The 3 raiders looked at each other on split screen. Continued, his voice steady and cold. "My ship carries enough firepower to cripple at least one of your vessels before we go down. My tactical officer has already calculated the most efficient kill shots. We'll target life support first, then engines, then reactors. We're not aiming to disable. We're aiming to obliterate." "You're insane," the gray-skinned raider said. "No," said. "I'm committed. There's a difference. You came here for profit. We came here to protect innocents. That means I value those 1,200 civilians more than I value my ship, my crew, or your lives." The reptilian captain's eyes narrowed. "You would sacrifice your crew." "They volunteered when they joined the military," said. "Every member of my crew understands that protecting civilians is worth dying for. Do your crews feel the same about raiding?" On the Guardian's bridge, the crew worked quietly at their stations. Didn't know if they actually agreed with what he was saying. He hoped they did. He hoped they understood. Stood behind, silent but present, giving him the authority to continue. "Here's your choice," said to the raiders. "You have 13 minutes before we arrive. You can spend that time running, getting as far from this system as possible, or you can stay and fight. But if you stay, understand that I will sacrifice everything to make sure at least one of your ships becomes a debris field. Your crews will die, your captains will die, and the survivors will have to explain how they lost ships to humans protecting strangers. The raider with too many eyes spoke up. You can't guarantee you'll destroy one of us. You're right, said, but I can guarantee that if you're still here when we arrive, I will try with every weapon and tactic available. I will ram your ships if my guns fail. I will overload my reactor near your hulls if ramming fails. I will make your profit margin so costly that every other raider in this sector will think twice before attacking colonies. The screen showed the 3 raider captains in silent communication, probably on private channels. Waited, his expression neutral, his heart hammering. 10 minutes, the sensor officer said quietly. Leaned close to and whispered, if they call this bluff, we're committed. You understand that? It's not a bluff, sir, whispered back. If they stay, we do exactly what I promised. Nodded slowly, then I hope they're smart. The raider's channel reopened. The reptilian captain spoke, and its voice carried anger. You humans think you're so superior, so willing to die. Not superior, said. Just committed to different values. You value profit, we value life. That makes us willing to trade our lives for yours if it saves innocence. Your reputation precedes you, Lieutenant, the gray-skinned raider said. We've heard about your academy exam, about the who retreated from your threats. Didn't smile, but he felt a small surge of hope. His reputation might actually save lives today. They made a smart choice, said. They calculated the cost versus the reward and decided raiding wasn't worth losing a heavy cruiser. I'm offering you the same calculation. 1,200 civilians aren't worth losing one of your ships. The raider with too many eyes tilted its head. What if we just kill the civilians now and leave, out of spite? His expression hardened. Then I will hunt you. Not today, maybe, but I will find you. I will find your base. And I will make sure every being in this sector knows that killing civilians under human protection means facing consequences that never end. The threat hung in the air. It was beyond authority, beyond even authority, but it felt true. The 3 raiders conferred again. Minutes ticked past. 7 minutes, the sensor officer said. Then the tactical display changed. The 3 raider ships were moving, turning away from the colony. Sir, the raiders are breaking orbit, the sensor officer reported. They're heading for the system's edge. Didn't relax. Maintain course, full speed. I want eyes on them until they jump. Agreed, said. Let's make sure they actually leave. The channel to the raiders remained open. The reptilian captain looked at with something that might have been respect or might have been hatred. You win today, human, it said. But remember, reputation is a double-edged blade. Now every raider knows your name. Some will avoid you. Others will seek you out to prove you're not as dangerous as you claim. Let them come, said quietly. I'll give them the same choice I gave you, leave or discover if the stories are true. The channel closed. The Guardian arrived at the colony 5 minutes later, just as the raider ships jumped to faster-than-light speeds. Stood on the bridge, his legs shaking slightly. Real combat, real stakes, real lives saved, no casualties on either side, just like the simulation. But this time it counted. Put a hand on shoulder. Good work, Lieutenant, that took nerve. Thank you, sir, managed. Also terrifying, added. Were you really willing to ram those ships? Looked at his captain. Yes, sir, if that's what it took to save those 1,200 people, yes. Nodded slowly. That's what I thought, and that's what makes you valuable. Just remember you can only spend your life once. Make sure it's for something that matters. Those civilians mattered, sir, said. They did, agreed. Now let's go make sure they're okay. 3 years after the academy exams, name meant something in the outer territories. Raiders whispered it in their planning sessions. Colony administrators requested his ship specifically for protection. Other human officers studied his methods. He became a case study in military academies across Council space, though opinions on his tactics remained divided. The Guardian patrolled the border regions, responding to distress calls and showing presence in systems where lawlessness thrived. Advanced to senior tactical officer, then executive officer. Captain trusted him completely, often letting handle tense situations while observed. They saved 17 colonies in those 3 years. 12 times his reputation alone ended confrontations before shots were fired. 4 times they fought, and each time delivered exactly what he promised: maximum lethality against those who threatened civilians. Once they arrived too late, finding only debris and bodies. That failure haunted more than any success encouraged him. Now he stood in his quarters aboard the Guardian, packing his belongings into standard military crates. Transfer orders lay on his bunk, reassigning him to command his own vessel. The ECS Defender, a frigate named after his simulation ship. The coincidence felt deliberate. A knock on his door interrupted his packing. "Enter," said. Captain stepped inside, looking older than when they first met. Gray had spread through his hair and beard. New scars marked his hands. "Packing already?" asked. "Yes, sir," said. "Transfer is effective in 6 hours." Nodded and sat on the edge of his bunk. "I wanted to talk before you left. Command wants me to evaluate your readiness for captaincy." "Stopped packing, and your assessment, sir?" "Complicated," admitted. "You're one of the finest tactical minds I've served with. Your crew respects you. Your methods work, but you still worry me." "Why, sir?" asked, though he suspected he knew. "Because you haven't changed," said. 3 years, 17 successful missions, and you still approach every situation the same way. Immediate commitment, total stakes, no middle ground. Sat across from. "With respect, sir, the situations don't change. Raiders threatening civilians, pirates attacking transports. The innocent still need protection." "True," said. "But you never hesitate, you never doubt. You go from 0 to absolute commitment in seconds. That scares me because one day that commitment will cost you everything." "Maybe," acknowledged. "But if that day comes, it will be because protecting innocence required everything." Studied him with tired eyes. "Do you remember Colony Thetanine, the one we arrived too late to save?" His expression darkened. "Every day, sir." "That wasn't your fault," said. "We were 4 hours away. No ship could have made it in time." "I know," said, "but I still see their faces, 347 people. I read every name in the casualty report, memorized them." "Why?" asked gently. "Because they deserved someone to remember," said. "Because I failed them." "You didn't fail them," insisted. "The raiders who killed them failed basic morality. You did everything possible." Shook his head. "If I had been closer, if I had patrolled that sector instead of the other, if I had pushed the Guardian harder." "You would have broken the ship trying," finished. "You can't save everyone. No officer can. That's the hardest lesson of command." "I know that intellectually, sir," said, "but knowing it doesn't make it easier." Stood and walked to the small window showing stars beyond. "When you take command of the Defender, you'll face these choices alone. No one looking over your shoulder. No one to confirm your decisions. Just you and your conscience." "I understand, sir," said. "I don't think you do," turned back. "Right now, you can make your threats and live with the consequences because I'm ultimately responsible. When you're captain, every death is yours to carry. Every civilian lost, every crew member killed, every raider obliterated. That weight changes you." "Considered that. Did it change you, sir?" "Yes," said simply. "I used to be more like you, absolutely certain, ready to sacrifice anything for the mission. Then I lost a crew. 23 people died following my orders during the colony wars. I still see their faces, too." "What changed?" asked. "I learned that certainty is dangerous," said. "The moment you stop questioning yourself is the moment you make catastrophic mistakes. Your commitment to protecting innocence is admirable, but you need to balance it with wisdom." Stood and faced his captain. "Sir, I appreciate your concern, but I can't command any other way. When someone threatens civilians, I can't afford to hesitate or doubt. The innocents need a defender who will act decisively." Sighed. "I know, that's what makes you effective. It's also what will eventually break you." He paused. "I've approved your promotion. You're ready for command. Just promise me something." "What, sir?" asked. "Don't lose yourself in the mission," said. "Don't become so committed to protecting others that you forget you're human too. You're allowed to doubt, allowed to feel fear, allowed to choose something other than total sacrifice sometimes." "I'll try, sir," said, though both of them knew it was an empty promise. Clasped his shoulder. "Good luck, Captain. The Defender is a good ship with a good crew. Take care of them." "I will, sir," said. "Thank you for everything you taught me." Left and returned to packing. 6 hours later, he transferred to the Defender. The ship was smaller than the Guardian, newer, with updated weapons and shields. The crew of 45 watched their new captain with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. They had heard the stories. Stood on his bridge for the first time, looking at the tactical displays and command chair. This was his ship now, his responsibility, his burden. "Captain," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a distress call from civilian transport Delta 7. They're under attack by unknown vessels." Moved to the tactical display, 2 raider ships converging on a transport with 300 passengers. The transport had minimal weapons and no shields. The math was familiar. "Helm set intercept course," ordered. "Maximum speed, tactical, prepare all weapons." His crew moved efficiently. They had trained for this. "Communications, open a channel to those raider ships," said. "All frequencies, I want them to hear me clearly." The channel opened. 2 raider captains appeared on screen, both species didn't recognize. They looked at him with expressions ranging from amusement to contempt. "Raider vessels," said calmly. "This is Captain of the ECS Defender. I'm offering you one chance to avoid combat. Leave that transport immediately." One raider covered in blue scales laughed. "Or what, human? You'll threaten us with mutual destruction. We've heard about you. You're the one who makes big promises." "Not promises," corrected. "Statements of fact. If you attack that transport, I will respond with every weapon and tactic designed for maximum lethality. I will prioritize your obliteration over my survival or my ship's survival." The second raider, something with gray skin and 4 arms, sneered. "Every raider in this sector knows your reputation. Some are scared. Others think you're all talk. We're here to find out which is true." Felt his pulse steady. This was the moment warned about, someone testing his reputation, calling his bluff. Except it wasn't a bluff. "Then you're about to get your answer," said. "I'm 7 minutes from your location. You can spend that time running or fighting. Choose now." The raiders looked at each other. The blue-scaled one spoke. "We choose fighting. Let's see if the famous is as dangerous as the stories claim." The channel closed. The raiders opened fire on the transport. Watch the tactical display. The transport's shields failed. Hull breaches appeared. People were dying right now because raiders wanted to test his reputation. "Captain orders?" his tactical officer asked. His mind raced through scenarios. He could try to disable the raiders. He could negotiate. He could call for reinforcements. All those options took time. Time the transport didn't have. Or he could do exactly what he promised. "Tactical target both raider vessels," said. His voice was cold and clear. "I want firing solutions on their life support bridge sections and reactor cores. No warning shots, no disabling fire. When we're in range, we shoot to kill." His crew hesitated for just a moment. This was different from training. This was real. "You heard the captain," his executive officer said. "Execute orders." The defender accelerated toward the fight. Watch the transport taking damage. 20 people dead already according to sensors. 40, 60. "In range in 2 minutes, tactical reported." "Prepare to fire on my mark," said. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair. Its words echoed in his mind. "Every death is yours to carry." But the alternative was watching civilians die while he hesitated. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the transport is hailing us. The captain is begging for help." "Tell them help is coming," said. 90 seconds. The defender closed the distance. The raiders saw them coming and split their fire between the transport and the approaching frigate. Plasma bolts lit up space. The defender's shields absorbed the hits. 30 seconds, tactical said. Leaned forward, all weapons fire. The defender's guns spoke with lethal precision. Railgun rounds punched through the first raider's shields and into their bridge section. Plasma torpedoes followed, targeting the reactor. The raider ship shuddered, then exploded in a brilliant flash. The second raider tried to run, but its tactical officer had predicted that. Torpedoes intercepted its flight path. The raider's shields collapsed. More railgun fire tore into life support and engines. "Second raider is disabled, sir," tactical reported. "They're venting atmosphere, engines dead, weapons offline." Stared at the dying ship. 40 beings on that vessel, according to sensors. 40 lives that would end because they tested his reputation. "Survivors?" asked. "Detecting life signs in 3 sections," sensors reported. They're sealing emergency bulkheads. Had a choice, he could finish them, obliterate them completely just as he promised, or he could let them live and hope the message spread. Launch rescue pods, ordered. Emergency supplies only, enough for them to survive until someone picks them up. His executive officer looked surprised. Sir, I said obliterated or alive, explained. They're neutralized, no longer a threat. The first ship tested me and found the answer. These survivors will spread that answer to every raider in the sector. The Defender launched basic survival pods toward the crippled raider. Then they moved to the damaged transport. Transport Delta 7, this is Captain, said. What's your status? The transport captain appeared on screen, a female with blood on her face. We have 83 dead, Captain. Hull breaches on 3 decks, but we're stable. You saved us. Looked at the casualty count. 83 people dead, because the raiders wanted to test him, because his reputation drew challenges. I'm sorry we didn't arrive sooner, said. We're sending damage control teams to help with repairs. After securing the transport and ensuring the raider survivors would live, the Defender continued its patrol. Sat in his quarters looking at the list of names. 83 civilians. He read each one. Memorized them like he memorized the names from Thetanine. A message appeared on his terminal, from the Galactic Council Military Command. His action report had been reviewed. The first raider ship's destruction was deemed justified self-defense and protection of civilians. The decision to spare the second raider's crew was noted as showing appropriate mercy. But attached was a personal message from Admiral, head of Council Military Operations. Captain, your reputation precedes you. Your methods work, but they invite challenges. Every raider looking to make a name will test you. Every extremist seeking glory will target ships under your protection. Your question, alive or obliterated, has become a symbol. Some see you as a defender. Others see you as a threat. Be careful that your commitment to protecting innocents doesn't make them targets. Read the message 3 times. Admiral was right. His reputation protected some colonies but endangered others. His absolute commitment invited challenges from those wanting to prove themselves. He thought about's warning, about losing himself in the mission, about the weight of command. Then he thought about those 83 names, about the 217 survivors who would see their families again, because he arrived in time and fought without hesitation. A call came through from his bridge. Captain, we're receiving another distress signal. Colony outpost requesting assistance. Raiders demanding surrender. Stood and straightened his uniform. Set course. Maximum speed. Communications, prepare to open a channel to those raiders. Yes, sir, came the response. Walked to his bridge, carrying the weight of 83 deaths and 217 lives. Carrying his reputation and his commitment, carrying the question that defined him. He took his command chair and looked at the tactical display showing the endangered colony. His crew waited for orders. They trusted him to protect innocents, whatever the cost. Open the channel, ordered. The raider captain appeared on screen, confident and aggressive. Looked at the raider with calm, cold eyes. This is Captain of the ECS Defender. I'm offering you a choice that will determine whether you leave this system alive or obliterated. Choose carefully, because I always follow through on what I promise. The raider's expression changed as recognition dawned. The famous human, the one who meant every word. Waited for the response, ready to protect innocents by whatever means proved necessary. Ready to carry more names if that's what the mission required. Ready to be exactly what the galaxy needed. A defender willing to sacrifice everything for those who couldn't protect themselves. Because that's what humans did, that's who he was. The question remained constant, even as the scenarios changed. Alive or obliterated? The choice belonged to those who threatened the innocent, just made sure they understood the consequences. And in the outer territories of Council space, that certainty, that absolute commitment, saved lives every day. Even if it cost pieces of himself with each name he memorized, each death he carried, each promise he fulfilled. It was the price of being the kind of officer the galaxy needed, even if it wasn't always the officer the galaxy wanted. The raider ship's weapons powered down, another successful deterrence, another colony saved, another day of carrying the burden that came with his reputation. The human who asked the question that changed nothing and everything. Alive or obliterated? The answer determined the future. The Guardian moved toward the colony and returned to his station. His hands still trembled. His reputation had saved lives today, but it also marked him. The raiders would talk, word would spread. The human who asks, alive or obliterated, wondered if he could live up to that reputation every time, if his willingness to sacrifice everything would eventually cost him everything. But he also remembered 1,200 faces he would never see, people who would live because he made a threat and meant it. That had to be worth something. Marked him, put him under scrutiny. The galaxy was watching to see what kind of officer Earth produced. He thought about that question again, alive or obliterated. It seemed so simple, but it contained everything about how he saw his duty. Protect the innocent, stop the threat, whatever it takes. The corridor seemed longer on the way back. At the simulation felt that real. Around him, other candidates emerged from their pods. Some looked relieved, others looked devastated, a few were crying. Walked to the exit on legs that barely held him. He had saved the civilians. He had defeated 3 heavy cruisers with psychology and willingness to sacrifice everything. But he didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. The mission is to protect civilians, Lieutenant, finally said. How you handle the threat is your decision, but know that we will judge every choice you make. Understood, sir, said. The communication channel closed. The simulation began in earnest. Looked at the tactical display showing the 3 cruisers approaching the civilian station. He looked at his own ship's limited weapons and shields. He looked at the 8,000 innocent lives depending on him. Then he began giving orders, and the monitoring room started to understand exactly what kind of officer Earth had sent them.